Hello there. Welcome to my channel, where we do nonsense commentary on movies, series, and video games. I am your gracious host, the flirty but dirty WeirdShady. For you who don't know what Black Sails is, it's primarily a series about pirates and plundering. I have seen it again for the 5th time, I believe, and I want to talk about it. Black Sails is indeed my favorite show of all time, and still almost no one has seen it. At least not in my circle of friends. And I wonder why. I mean, there's a reason why I chose the respected title of the video. Have you seen so many hot people in one place? Here we got the hardened James Flint, the gingerly captain with an attitude that can command you to drop your trousers by telling you that it will do you good in the future. We also have this cutie patootie with curly burly hair called John Silver, the man that can melt your heart with his smooth words of mischief and deep blue eyes. And of course we do have this tall boy, Billy Bones. He's got a bod, he's got a smirk, and the loyalty and the personality of a golden retriever. There's also Charles Vane, or as I like to call him,
Chaz.
That raspy voice of a sexy smoker and the anger issues, like a chihuahua, can make you want to do bad things. There's Jack Rackham, the eccentric, the whimsical, the intellectual, and also the sweet mustache-loving pirate with a heart of gold. And then we got the ladies. There's Eleanor Guthrie, the strong, the powerful, the blonde queen of the pond. She has the power of a politician over the outlaws that seems like kindergarten children compared to her. We got Max, the dark-haired, seductive and cunning woman that I'd be scared to be on the opposite side of.
You know, you gotta admire her. When she sets her mind on something...
It's not her mind you're admiring.
It's true.
And last but not least, the ruthless and mysterious and Bonny. If you give her one bad look, she'll do...
Grab his dick and twist it!
Oh my god, dude, this is an MMA fight, dude!
You twist that dick!
Twist his dick!
Twist his dick!
Oh my god, dude. Oh my god.
Oh, dick twist!
She's loyal and got some nice teeth. And then we got these guys.
Fruit, fruit. Tits, tits. Plant, plant. It's the fucking same.
Yes, Captain. I'm sure they look the same.
I mean, it's something. But anyway, back to the seriousness that I'm so fondly known for. Since the series has been released on Netflix, for you who occupy the areas around the North Americas not so long ago, I think it'd be time to talk about the one of those series that be the best series of all time. Of course, I don't want to spoil too much for you though, because I don't want to ruin the show by saying too much. I am more here because I want to spread the word of this series, much like the rats during the Black Plague. Black Sails absolutely works as a standalone series that catches your eye with intent of drooling a bit too much because of the exquisite cast of beautiful people with both manly bellies of bumpy abdominals and women with
Huge tracts of land!
But it's also a prequel to the old and famous book Treasure Island, which has had a few different movies ever since it was released in the late 1800s. The most famous version of the story to this day, especially for those who are obsessed with the Disney movies from the early 2000s, is indeed Treasure Planet. And Treasure Planet is an infamously underrated Disney film that's also a sci-fi version of the same story, only with aliens and lasers, but still old school ships, more or less. And in my opinion, it's the best version of the story as well, apart from the book itself, of course. Anyway, that's not the point of this video. Black Sails is a pirate series that takes place in the golden age of piracy, where you meet the infamous Captain Flint as he and his crew are on the lookout for a rather huge booty. I mean, chest. I mean, gold. Let's just stick with gold. Yes, he wants gold. Lots and lots of gold. In his quest for gold, he is faced with a lurking enemy that strikes fear in the hearts of all that tries to start piracy with a repeating parrot on their shoulder.
Resist!
Brace yourself. Winter is coming. No, civilization is coming. This band of sea salt slurping bullies is to stand in the way of civilization's quest of coming to knock on their door, asking them to open their hearts to their Lord and Savior, King George.
It's the horn of completion. I just saw myself in the monitor.
And yeah, that's kind of the plot without spoiling way too much. The writing in this show is something that I have not encountered much in TV shows. Almost every line written and delivered is masterfully crafted. The story is big and impactful, but easy to understand. You are never lost or confused. And when you get to explore twists and turns in episode after episode, you always get the feeling that the writing has been leading up to it all along. There are even scenes early on that gets new understanding and meaning if you rewatch them after seeing the show for the first time. All of it makes sense. It's like the watcher is being rewarded for following the plot because it shakes your previous understanding. And it gives you this whole other meaning and realization to the characters as well. Nothing is included in the series without it having meaning. And of course, speaking of sex... No one asked. There is some in it. Quite a lot of it, actually. If that is of any interest to you, just thought I should mention it. You know, no biggie. By that, I mean that the featured sex is apparent as you watch the show. No question about it. It's for fan service, of course, because most people does indeed think it's interesting to watch. By some reason, I believe, yes. But it has its use in the story as well. And of course, not to be too political, but I would do the series a disservice if I didn't mention that the show features LGBTQ+ representation quite heavily. In Black Sails, this representation is some of the best I've ever seen on screen. It's written in a way that truly gives it meaning. It's not out of place or forced into the story at all. It makes sense, especially with the context of the world. It's woven into the series so neatly. Whole character arcs are created with this in mind, and it complements both the pirate setting and the period it takes place. Works well with the show's themes and concepts as well. The same can be said for the diversity of race and culture. Absolutely nothing is out of place, because the writing on the series uses real-life history as the foundation. Examples of this is the series touches heavily upon the story of slaves, on the subject of sexuality, but most importantly, finding and fighting for a place to belong in the world. Since there's 4 seasons of Black Sails, it doesn't overstay its welcome either, compared to other shows. In fact, I personally think the show is too short, leaving you wanting more. But the developers of the show were told that there wouldn't be any more seasons after season 4. So they neatly wrapped up the entire show with the last season, and they managed to conclude the entire story at the end of season 4. The writing is seamless, like it was meant to be this way. Quite similar to Game of Thrones, who just wanted to finish it without the effort. There's a lot of shows that has overshadowed Black Sails, as it was released on Starz, and I can imagine that Starz is not everyone's first priority when it comes to streaming services. I know that HBO Max, now it's just Max, has Game of Thrones, one of the biggest shows ever made. We also have Netflix that streams Vikings, which is also another show that has been overshadowed by Game of Thrones, just not as much. But I really don't like to follow the trend where you compare everything to Game of Thrones, since Game of Thrones has somewhat become the golden standard when it comes to making a TV show. It's the perfect series for many people, at least if you ignore the last 2 seasons. But in this case, I think you can compare Black Sails to Game of Thrones, at least in some aspects. Because both shows has many of the same qualities, like the world building, amazing characters, interesting storylines, and an overarching threat that is progressively getting closer to getting them. The only thing is, Black Sails didn't half-ass it with the threat that was coming. But I'm not here to tell you that if you like Game of Thrones, you will love Black Sails. No, I am here to do the opposite. I don't hate Game of Thrones by any means. In fact, I love it. I just think that there's a lot of people that find it challenging to watch. The reason is because of the potential feeling of thinking the world is too big and overwhelming. There's too many storylines to follow, and they rarely cross paths with each other as the story progresses. Or they just don't have much to do with each other at all. Or that there's almost nothing happening except for lots and lots of slow scenes with talking and talking and talking. All of these aspects are relatively valid reasons for people not to like Game of Thrones. Black Sails, on the other hand, is smaller in scale, easier to watch, as the scale and pacing of the show is more focused. But although the world is smaller in scale, the series is still rich with amazing characters, has intriguing dialogue and masterful world building. There's fewer storylines at the same time, they cross with each other very often, the pacing and scenes are done brilliantly since they don't drag by any means, the story is constantly moving forward, and it's exciting! You can often feel like the episodes become shorter and shorter because of this, even though each episode is about an hour each. I would absolutely hate it if I didn't at least mention the music in this series. The soundtrack is made by the one and only Bear McCreary, the god of composing himself. You would know his work from projects like God of War and God of War Ragnarok. There's Outlander, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Rings of Power, and his brand new album The Singularity, a combination of rock and roll in all shapes and sizes. Figuratively. The music in the show hits very well, it fits within the setting and is in fact a banger. If I'm not mistaken, McCreary made much of the music with the damn hurdy-gurdy. Awesome. Oh, it's such a good soundtrack. And it gets better with each season as well. I mean, the music in season 4 are just, oh yes. That's all I have to say. Well, I may not know much about music and composing, so I don't really think that there's much else to say. But I do know that it should be a crime that he is such a good composer. In fact, the biggest crime that he has done in this world, though, is...
So you can't steal in here. What? I didn't steal anything. You stole my heart.
Black Sails is a series that I would almost call perfection. But there could be some flaws if you would very much like to look at it with a critical view. For example, season 1 of Black Sails could be considered the weakest one. It's the slowest season, and it's the cheapest season, as it is the start of a journey. But fear not, it's still mighty good though. The production quality, among other things, have improved greatly. And it's such a big difference between season 1 and 2 alone, I might add. Another thing that you can pick on, if you'd like, is that it's not absolutely historically accurate, but more than often, portrayals of specific time periods and such aren't. Black Sails' main focus of the series isn't to be 100% accurate either. Much of this could be related to budget or writing done in modern day times, but that shouldn't take away from many of the other aspects that are accurate in many forms. One bonus thing, if you care to indulge me. One thing that I found extremely amusing, as a rather creative person myself, is that, you know, when you try to create something with passion in mind, and you never seem to be happy with what you do because some perfectionist-related reason, and you also probably know about the most famous pirate flag that ever was. I should hope so, since it's featured all over the place. The one that is shown everywhere, every time, every how, something is remotely closely referred to piracy. That, my friend, is a real pirate flag, designed by the real-life calico Jack Rackham. In the show, Rackham wants to create a name for himself, become a legend of sorts. The flags that pirate ships use can be seen as their own personal logos per se, so they have to create them, much like every artist does. Anyway, throughout the story, Rackham is constantly trying to design his own flag/logo, but are never fully pleased with it. His doubt is shown several times whenever he looks at it with foul eyes or questionable resentment towards it, or when he genuinely asks what is wrong with it. I find it amusing and relatable, since I do this myself all the time, and I'm sure many of you also can relate to it, perhaps? The last point I want to end this video on is that the series have such rich and powerful characters that are incredibly well written and acted. In some ways, I feel like I have been blessed and cursed after seeing this series, because I have a problem with enjoying directing and editing in other shows now. But that's all I had for today. If I feel like I haven't gushed enough about Black Sails already, I will certainly make another video about it. And if I haven't persuaded you into seeing it yet, then...
God damn it!
I hope to see you next time. And with that said, that's what C said. You get it? Because, sea, ocean, pirates? Yeah, well, it was my roommate's joke, so... Fairly well for now!